Have a good day, students. Today we will be dealing with the chapter on examinations by Winston S. Churchill. Sir Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill was a British politician, military officer, and writer who served as the Prime Minister of Great Britain from 1940 to 1945 and also from 1951 to 1955. So he served the office of Prime Minister of Great Britain twice. He was instrumental in defeating Nazi army in World War II. Also, you must have known, if you have read the world history, you must have known that he had also been named for Nobel Prize for Literature for his mastery of historical and biographical description, as well as for brilliant oratory in defending exalted human values, according to the Nobel Prize community. Now, about his death, Churchill, he died on January 24, 1965 at the age of 90 in his London home 9 days after suffering a severe stroke, and Britain mourned for him for more than a week. So moving on to the text, we will see about introducing the author. So here we'll see Sir Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill, 1874 to 1965, was the Prime Minister of England twice, that is from 1940 to the year 1945, and second time for 1951 to 1955. A noted statesman and orator, Churchill was also an officer in the British Army, a historian, a writer, and an artist. He was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1953. At Harrow is an excerpt from chapter 2, Harrow, of Winston S. Churchill's autobiography, A Roving Commission, My Early Life, written in 1930. The book A Roving Commission, My Early Life consists of his surprisingly direct and reflective and even intimate self-portrait of an extraordinary character through his formative years, full of ironic wit and self-deprecating good humor. He is very much candid about his peculiar upbringing, about his growing up as a young man. So it can be also called as a coming of age story. He grew up as an Anglo-American child. His parents were of mixed race. And we can also learn about his own miserable schooling at Harrow. So in this book, we will see about his experiences, about his privileges, about his backdrops, about his family experiences that he got growing up as a young man. So let us look at the book, that is Unit 1, and let's look on to warm-up session. Examinations for many are not a pleasant experience. The apprehension of not doing well makes even bright students anxious. Now read the following unit of the text and note how the writer took his entrance examination to Harrow. Now, everyone has got some or other stage in their life in which they have to face an examination to enter into a school, to enter into a high school, to enter into college, to enter into any competitive exam or any exam for the sake of getting an entrance into a job opportunity also. So we will see about the apprehensions and also the experiences of Winston Churchill while going through this chapter, which will be quite similar to each and every student of the world, how they have and what kind of feelings they have while being prepared for any sort of examination. So let's move on. So Churchill in the text speaks, I had scarcely passed my 12th birthday when I entered the inhospitable regions of examinations through which for the next 7 years I was destined to journey. These examinations were a great trial to me. The subjects which were dearest to the examiners were almost invariably those I fancied least. So everyone has got a subject in which they are very good at and some subjects in which they are not so good at. So the examiners, they tend to love those subjects which Churchill did not fancy, did not like at all. So he says, I would have liked to have been examined in history, poetry, and writing essays. The examiners, on the other hand, were partial to Latin and mathematics, and their will prevailed. Yes, because it's in the hands and it's in the will of the examiners what questions they would put forward in order to test you in the examinations, in order to test your aptitude skills in the examination. So in this case, he was weak. Moreover, the questions which they asked on both these subjects were almost invariably those to which I was unable to suggest a satisfactory answer. Now, very often it happens that if the examination pattern, the question pattern in the examination does not suit to the or match to the things which you have prepared for the same, you tend to say this, that yes, the examiner must be my rival, right? So such was the case with a student form of Winston Churchill too. He is being very genuine here, very honest here. I should have liked to be asked to say what I knew. They always tried to ask what I did not know. When I would have willingly displayed my knowledge, they sought to expose my ignorance. This sort of treatment had only one result. I did not do well in exams. So he always tended to get, or he was quite unlucky to get those questions in examinations which did not make up to him, or in which he was not very good at. So, and also he says that the examiners were never satisfied with whatever answers he gave, and when he was willingly present to display in what sector or in what part he had his knowledge more on, the teachers or the examiners, they always tried to find a way in which he would be ignorant or he would not be very good at. They would bring out his negative points or his lacuna in that sector. So that is why he started hating it and he did not do well in examinations. This was especially true of my entrance examination to Harrow. The headmaster, Dr. Weldon, however, took a broad-minded view of my Latin prose. He showed discernment in judging my general ability. This was the more remarkable because I was found unable to answer a single question in the Latin paper. I wrote my name at the top of the page. I wrote down the number of the question first. After much reflection, I put a bracket round it thus: I, or the Roman letter first, within quotations. But thereafter, I could not think of anything connected with it that was either relevant or true. I gazed for 2 whole hours at this sad spectacle, and then merciful ushers collected my piece of foolscap with all the others and carried it up to the headmaster's table. It was from these slender indications of scholarship that Dr. Weldon drew the conclusion that I was worthy to pass into Harrow. It is very much to his credit. It showed that he was a man capable of looking beneath the surface of things, a man not dependent upon paper manifestations. I have always had the greatest regard for him. Now this happens. You must be remembering about any school teacher or any favorite teacher of your own, the favorite or the ideal teacher of your own, who, no matter whatever you have written in your examination paper, they know you, they can judge you by the personal skills and the abilities that you got. And they do not judge on the answers that are put on your report card. So, Churchill was very much grateful to this man, to his headmaster, Dr. Weldon, who had made him pass into the entrance exam to get into Harrow. So that is why he says, I have the greatest regard for him. He appreciates the person because mere marks cannot judge the ability or the quality a student has got. Now it often happens that the toppers in schools and colleges, they do not end up with good jobs. Rather, the people with lesser marks comparatively, they turn out to be very much experienced, or the people who have good public relationship skills, and they fare well in the genuine world, in the competitive world. The toppers, however, they are, in a general sense, I am saying, I'm not putting it on any particular individual or something. The topper students, they are not accustomed to failure, so that's why they tend to get depressed with a minor failure in their life. Whereas the people who keep on failing, they know how to tackle the situation, and that is why they emerge out to be good, experienced human beings. Churchill was one of them. And yes, he passes on this credit to his headmaster, Dr. Weldon, of course. In consequence of his decision, I was in due course placed in the third or lowest division of the fourth or bottom form. The names of the new boys were printed in the school list in alphabetical order, and as my correct name, Spencer Churchill, began with an S, I gained no more advantage from the alphabet than from the wider sphere of letters. I was in fact only 2 from bottom of the whole school, and these 2, I regret to say, disappeared almost immediately through illness or some other cause. Imagine the horror when the report card comes into the classroom along with the principal, and the principal goes on telling out the names of the students basing on the marks achieved. So it will give an idea to the whole class who has fared well in the examination and who has not. But luckily to his school policies, the students' number and the students' admission was given in alphabetical order. So that is why his marks were not that much visible. Still, it did not help him because his first name started with S, and also it did not get him more advantage from the other alphabet because there were only 2 people left, and these 2 people, they almost disappeared immediately through illness or some other cause. So that is why he was the one to be placed at the bottom. So he had a luck, but still that turned into not so lucky one. The Harrow custom of calling the roll is different from that of Eton. At Eton, the boys stand in a cluster and lift their hats when their names are called. Like you say, present sir or present ma'am. So they lift up their hat and stand up. At Harrow, they file past a master in the schoolyard and answer one by one. My position was therefore revealed in its somewhat invidious humility. It was the year 1887. Lord Randolph Churchill had only just resigned his position as leader of the House of Commons and Chancellor of the Exchequer, and he still towered in the forefront of politics. In consequence, large numbers of visitors of both sexes used to wait on the school steps in order to see me march by, and I frequently heard the irreverent comment, "Why, he is last of all?" Do you know who Lord Randolph Churchill was? It was his father. So because he had just resigned his position as a leader of the House of Commons and Chancellor of the Exchequer, he was still there in politics as a leading person. So that is why he also witnessed so many visitors in front of his school. People were very much wanting to have a view of the son of such a great leader. So there is a family pressure too, that if the father is a leader, the son ought to be a leader too. But generally he frequently heard this comment, that why he is last of all. His father was habituated to be in the forefront of politics, but he wasn't till now. He was in his school days. So that is why the curiosity of the audience made them to question the person, that is the son, who was lagging behind. So this in a way affected him. Now let's move on to Unit 2. Moving on to the warm-up session, we'll see, think of the role of a teacher in a student's life. Doesn't a teacher facilitate the learning of a pupil and develop skills in him or her? Read the following unit of the text and note the role played by Mr. Somervell in the writer's education at Harrow. Now definitely you people must also be having a favorite teacher in your school life or in your college life. The person, the ideal person who must have insisted you to go for a subject which would be good for you, or who must have been always available to or open to any doubts you have to clarify it to the core. So Churchill, he has written about his favorite teachers in this book too. Churchill further says, I continued in this unpretentious situation for nearly a year. However, by being so long in the lowest form, I gained an immense advantage over the cleverer boys. They all went on to learn Latin and Greek and splendid things like that. But I was taught English. We were considered such dunces that we could learn only English. So see the peer pressure, not the peer pressure, but the pressure because his father was in the forefront in politics. His father was a leader. How come he be a loser, right? Remember that he had secured the bottom of the 4th division for the getting of the admission into the school, right? So that is why he had to suffer this situation for nearly about a year. Now he was chosen for English, for being taught English and not Latin and Greek, because they were rather difficult subjects, right? So Mr. Somervell, a most delightful man to whom my debt is great, was charged with the duty of teaching the stupidest boys the most disregarded thing, namely to write mere English. Now see, because English is their mother tongue, being taught their mother tongue, being taught their native language to the stupidest of the person was a job which was not that much to be credited for, as said by Winston Churchill. And he was one of the not so clever or not so sparkling a student to get into other subjects. Rather, he was taught English. And by whom? By Mr. Somervell, who, according to Churchill, was a most delightful man. He knew how to do it. He taught it as no one else has ever taught it. Not only did we learn English parsing thoroughly, but we also practiced continually English analysis. Mr. Somervell had a system of his own. He took a fairly long sentence and broke it up into its components by means of black, red, blue, and green inks. Subject, verb, object, relative clauses, conditional clauses, conjunctive and disjunctive clauses. Each had its color and its bracket. Right. So some skillful teachers, they have got their own way, their own tactics or own skills of making the students learn. Mr. Somervell was one of them. It happens. It also has happened with me. You can ask each and everyone else that yes, some students, they tend to love a subject because of the way the teacher teaches them. You tend to hate a subject because the way the teacher behaves with them, right? So that is why Mr. Somervell was a good man. He was a good teacher, due to which they loved him. And they loved his teaching as well, and they loved learning what he taught. So he had a system of his own. He took a fairly long sentence and broke it up into its components by means of black, red, blue, and green ink. So here he tended to bring out the grammar thing while the formation of a sentence. So, the subject, the verb, object, relative clauses, conditional clauses, conjunctive clauses, and disjunctive clauses. This come under linguistics also. Clauses. Now, each had its color and its bracket. It was a kind of drill. We did it almost daily. Now see, this drilling method is approached or taken or adopted in the primary level, even in Indian schools. Like you go on reciting a poetry or any letters for that sake, like the alphabets, you go on getting drilled, like A, B, C, D, A for apple, B for ball, 1 into 2 is 2, 1 into 3 is 3. That is what is called as drilling method. So they were taught in this drilling method and they did it almost daily, so that will be inbuilt in their minds. As I remained in the third, fourth 3 times as long as anyone else. I had 3 times as much of it. I learned it thoroughly. Thus, I got into my bones the essential structure of the ordinary British sentence, which is a noble thing. And when in after years my schoolfellows who had won prizes and distinctions for writing such beautiful Latin poetry and pithy Greek epigrams had to come down again to common English to earn their living or make their way. Yes, generally we also tended to ask questions to ourselves or to our friends, or amongst our friends we used to discuss what is the need to learn this subject. Will it help us in getting any job, or will it help us in getting into our practical lives? Now, we cannot blame any subject for that sake, but yes, here he is saying, he is talking about Greek and Latin literature. What will you learn? You will learn only about history. You will learn to read the scripture. And what is a man if he does not know his history? But what about the practical life applicability? That will not help them in getting any jobs. So that is why Churchill, in a way, is creating a mockery over these people, that they had to come down again to common English to earn their living or make their way. Because talking in Latin won't give you dollars, right? I did not feel myself at any disadvantage. He is appreciating himself that no, my choice of subject was good. Naturally, I am biased in favor of boys learning English. See, this happens, this affinity thing. Now, students, they generally go on talking, are you from CBSE? Are you from ICSE? A student from ICSE will have that mutual thing or mutual affection for the other student from ICSE of the same background. A person from CBSE will have that affinity for that person from CBSE. A person from state board will have that affinity for the other state board student, right? So this affinity amongst this subject thing is also there. Like, yes, I am from science stream, I am from commerce stream, I am from arts team, right? So this thing, this affinity, he had a favor of boys learning English. I would make them all learn English, and then I would let the clever ones learn Latin as an honor, okay, and Greek as a treat. But the only thing I would whip them for would be for not knowing English. I would whip them hard for that. See, here he is trying to focus on the importance of native language. Not only it was the subject which he favored or which he learned as a student, but also English was their native language. So in a way, he wanted everyone to be good in their language. Right? So, the respect for your national language, for your native or for your mother tongue. So, this finishes the Unit 1 and Unit 2 of this chapter, that is on examinations. Your job is to go through the question and answers given in Unit 1 and Unit 2. So, have a good day. We will continue with this in the next class. Take care.